So today I just wanted to do a little unique video, and that is why I personally collect Star Wars action figures and why I continue to collect and why I have been for all these years at this point. So at the time of this video, I've been collecting for almost 21 years at this point. And I know, especially if you've been around collecting for a long time, you've probably had people around you that tell you things like, oh, in a couple years, you're not going to be collecting this stuff anymore. Oh, you'll grow out of it. I've been collecting these since I was a kid, and I'm sure a lot of the people that grew up on the Kenner line back in the late 70s and early 80s know exactly what I'm talking about, where their parents would tell them things like, oh, you'll grow out of it, and maybe they sell off their collection or whatever, but then here 40 plus years later, we're still collecting, and that's for many of us. Of course, I started collecting around that transition of the Power of the Jedi saga line, and still am to this day. So why do I do that? Well, personally to me, my collection, at this point I'm maybe roughly around 800 action figures or so. Each one tells a story about me personally and my experiences for life. So these particular four that I'm showing you here, each one has a significant meaning to me. Like the Sand Trooper here, I distinctively recall getting this when I was 6 at the time. And if you are from the Midwest, you might know the grocery store Myers, and that's where I got it. And I know my dad and we went down the toy aisle at the time, and him and I both took a look at that and said, yeah, we gotta get that. And to me, it's been 20 years now at this point, and I still have it in my collection, and every time I look at it, I always think of that time that we bought it. So that's a memory that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, probably. In the case of Captain Rex here from the Clone Wars line, this is the very first Clone Wars action figure that I got, and it was around August of 2008, around the time the movie premiered. I recall when I first saw the Clone Wars action figures at stores, and I saw there's this character called Captain Rex. I was like, who's this? Is that even a clone? Because, I wasn't, the animated style looked a little bit different to me. And of course, Rex having the blonder hair, it's just not something I was used to seeing at the time. Most of the clones, had the typical Tamora Morrison look at the time. So when we had something unique like this, I was like, whoa, is that even a clone? And of course, the original Rex had this very strange paint on his lip there, or on his chin. And to this day, I'm still not exactly sure what that is, but they all have it. But it's just something I distinctively recall, Rex being the first Clone Wars action figure I got, and all these years later, I still have it. Savage here. So it's not the happiest story in the world, but I distinctively recall that the day I got this, I got extremely sick that day. I totally forget why or how, but to me, I just think that's, it's just something where every time I look at the action figure, I recall getting sick on that same exact day. And again, it's not the happiest thing in the world, but again, it just shows you the power that owning something can have over what you recall in life. And for Jaina Solo here, I actually did not get her until years later. I never saw her at retail back around 2010 when she was released, and I know she was in limited supply, but pretty much ever since her release, she's a character that I always wanted in my collection, and it took about 5 to 6 years later, and my income started going up for my job at the time. Also, at the time, I started on a quest to get all these super rare action figures that I've been wanting to get in my collection for a long time. And Jaina Solo was one of the first ones that I did that I missed out on for the original release. So it kind of, to me, Jaina Solo, this action figure is kind of like the jump start to really getting even more into action figure collecting than I was. I've always been big into action figure collecting, obviously. I've been doing it for 20 years at this point, but I was a much more casual collector as a kid and into my teens. But I think ever since I was about 18, 19, I've been really going hardcore with a lot of my collecting, trying to get all the ones that I missed out on over the years. I did stay on top of it as much as I could over the years. Like the Sith Legacy pack just comes to mind. I got that at the time. And like Pre-Vizsla from the Clone Wars line, for example. So I didn't miss out on all the rare ones, but examples like Jaina Solo here I did. And I just kind of want to make a quick video about how Star Wars action figure collecting, to me, it defines the story of my life. I look at my entire collection and it basically goes through the evolution since I was a kid all the way up until now. And it's something that, to me, I hope is a part of my life for the rest of my life. I hope someday I'm like 70, 80, 90 years old and I still have this collection in my possession, and I can look back, and some of these action figures at this point will be like 70, 80 years old at that point. But to me, it just tells the story of my life, and I know probably for a lot of collectors, they might relate to that. We all got different reasons why we collect action figures, and I'm sure that's one that's up there on a lot of people's lists. Some of it, they just collect it because it's fun for them and it's cool. And of course, that applies for just about anybody. But to me, part of the reason why I liked, or I should say most of the reason why I like collecting, is it helps define the story of my life. Whether it's good times or bad times, you name it. And to me, it all tells a story, and to me, it just helps preserve some of that story from my life. So that's all I really wanted to say on that subject. I hope you found it and informative. But anyways, so far my plan is I like to do a lot more reviews. I like to try and get at least one video out a day, hopefully. Who knows how long that will stay for. At the time of this video, I've been managing to do it for an entire month now. Hopefully that continues. I greatly appreciate the support from a lot of you guys that have subscribed to the channel up until this point. Definitely got a lot of good feedback up until now, and I hope it continues into the future. But anyways, that concludes this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. And stay tuned for many more reviews in the future. And if you hadn't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate the support. And thanks for watching this.